You're not lost. You're just distracted. In a world screaming for your attention, like in trends, opinions, chaos, it's easy to forget the quiet truth. You are the only thing you truly own. The ancient Stoics knew this long before algorithms and noise. They whispered something powerful through the centuries. If you want peace, mastery, and freedom, stop chasing the world. Focus solely on yourself. Let that sink in. This isn't about being selfish. It's about coming home to yourself. It's about choosing stillness over reaction, purpose over pressure. It's about realizing that most of what stresses us out is not ours to carry. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who carried the weight of an empire, wrote to himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." So today, we start a quiet revolution. No drama, no blame, just you, choosing to take back your energy, your focus, your life. Because once you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you free yourself. And that changes everything. If something in these words stirred you, even slightly, consider supporting our little corner of the internet, like subscribe, and walk this path with us, not for hype, but for growth. We're not here to preach. We're here to remember what matters. Let's begin. Lesson 1. Don't speak ill of yourself. Even in your mind, it's strange, isn't it? We wouldn't dream of speaking harshly to someone we care about. But when it comes to ourselves, the words get sharp. You're not good enough. You always mess things up. What's wrong with you? These thoughts creep in quietly, almost like background noise, but over time they shape how we see ourselves and how we show up in the world. The Stoics would call this a form of self-betrayal. Because if your mind is the one thing you truly own, why fill it with poison? Epictetus, a man born into slavery who became one of the most respected philosophers of his time, said, "You are not your body or your possessions. You are your choices." And that includes the choice to speak kindly to yourself. When we focus solely on ourselves, truly focus, we start to notice just how much of our inner world is shaped by old voices, past criticisms, and misplaced guilt. Stoicism teaches us to become the guardian of our own mind. That means challenging the negative stories we repeat, not feeding them. Instead of asking, "Why am I like this?" try asking, "What can I do today with what I have to be a little better?" You don't need to fix everything overnight. You just need to stop being your own enemy. Speak to yourself like someone you're responsible for. Because you are. The world is already noisy. You don't need to be another voice tearing you down. Be the one voice that stands up for you. Calmly, consistently, and with grace. Lesson 2. Keep your goals to yourself. Let your actions speak. There's something almost addictive about announcing our goals. I'm going to start a business. I'm getting in shape. This year, everything changes. The likes roll in. The encouragement feels good. And in that moment, we feel accomplished, even though nothing has actually changed yet. But the Stoics saw through that illusion. They believed that real transformation doesn't need to be declared. It needs to be lived. Epictetus put it simply, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. When we focus solely on ourselves, we realize how often our energy is scattered outward, seeking validation, approval, applause. And yet, the deepest growth often happens in silence, in the early mornings, in the quiet sacrifices no one sees, in the discipline that doesn't need a spotlight. Stoicism teaches us to turn down the volume on performance and turn up the volume on practice. When you talk less and do more, you protect your momentum, you keep your power close, because announcing a goal before it's rooted can actually drain the fire behind it. You start living in the fantasy of success instead of the reality of the work. This isn't about secrecy, it's about self-respect. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You're not in a race for recognition. You're here to build something solid within yourself. Focus solely on yourself, and watch how your quiet discipline builds a life louder than any promise ever could. Lesson 3. Keep your struggles sacred. Not everything needs to be shared. In today's world, oversharing is almost expected. We're encouraged to put everything out there, every frustration, every heartbreak, every hard day. It can feel like if we're not telling the world what we're going through, then it somehow doesn't count. But here's the truth the Stoics understood: not every wound needs an audience. Seneca, one of the great Stoic minds, once said, "The greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it." Notice he didn't say, "The more you talk about it, the easier it gets." He said, "The glory, the growth, is in surmounting the difficulty, in facing it, moving through it, not in broadcasting it." That doesn't mean you should suffer in silence or never reach out for help. Of course not. But Stoicism invites us to choose deliberate stillness over impulsive exposure. It asks us to hold our challenges with quiet strength and to learn from them deeply before we present them publicly. Why? Because when you're in the middle of the storm, your energy is sacred. It needs to be preserved, not spread thin by the reactions of others. When you speak too soon about a personal struggle, you open the door to opinions, distractions, and noise that might only cloud your path forward. Keep your struggles sacred. Let them shape you before you share them. When the time is right, when you've truly grown through it, you'll know how to tell your story in a way that lifts others, not just unloads. Silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's wisdom. Lesson 4. Keep your opinions in check. Not every thought deserves to be spoken. Have you ever noticed how quick we are to jump in with an opinion? Someone shares a struggle, and we offer advice. A situation unfolds online, and we feel the urge to weigh in. The world almost trains us to believe that every thought we have must be shared. But the Stoics would gently, or but firmly, disagree. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, reminded himself, "You always own the option of having no opinion." Let that settle for a moment. You don't have to comment. You don't have to react. You don't have to carry the burden of every conversation. When you begin focusing solely on yourself, one of the first things you'll realize is just how much of your energy gets wasted on things that don't belong to you. Arguments that don't need your voice, topics that don't need your input, debates that drain you but don't change anything. Stoicism isn't about being passive, it's about being intentional. It's the strength to hold back when everyone else is pushing forward with noise. It's the quiet confidence to think something and not say it, not because you're afraid, but because you're wise enough to know when silence serves you better. The truth is, most of the time we're not offering opinions, we're looking for validation. We want to be seen as smart, woke, compassionate, clever. But in doing so, we often drift away from our own path. That's how transformation begins, not by shouting louder, but by finally learning to listen, especially to yourself. Lesson 4. Keep your opinions in check. Not every thought deserves to be spoken. Have you ever noticed how quick we are to jump in with an opinion? Someone shares a struggle, and we offer advice. A situation unfolds online, and we feel the urge to weigh in. The world almost trains us to believe that every thought we have must be shared. But the Stoics would gently, or but firmly, disagree. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, reminded himself, "You always own the option of having no opinion." Let that settle for a moment. You don't have to comment. You don't have to react. You don't have to carry the burden of every conversation. When you begin focusing solely on yourself, one of the first things you'll realize is just how much of your energy gets wasted on things that don't belong to you. Arguments that don't need your voice, topics that don't need your input, debates that drain you but don't change anything. Stoicism isn't about being passive, it's about being intentional. It's the strength to hold back when everyone else is pushing forward with noise. It's the quiet confidence to think something and not say it, not because you're afraid, but because you're wise enough to know when silence serves you better. The truth is, most of the time, we're not offering opinions. We're looking for validation. We want to be seen as smart, woke, compassionate, clever. But in doing so, we often drift away from our own path. That's how transformation begins, not by shouting louder, but by finally learning to listen, especially to yourself. Lesson 5. Keep your progress private. Let growth be your quiet companion. Growth is exciting when you finally start making progress mentally, emotionally, physically. There's a natural urge to share it. And in a world where every milestone is turned into a post, it almost feels wrong to not broadcast your transformation. But here's where the Stoic mindset offers a radical, freeing perspective. True growth doesn't need an audience. Epictetus taught, don't show off your improvement, show it in your behavior. Real change isn't loud, it doesn't need applause, it's not about before and after photos or public declarations. It's about who you are when no one's watching, how you carry yourself in the quiet moments, the choices you make when no one will praise you for them. Keeping your progress private doesn't mean hiding it out of shame, it means protecting it. Like a flame in the wind, your growth is still taking shape. There's something powerful about becoming better in silence. You stop relying on external praise to feel proud. You start building your confidence from the inside out. That's when you know your growth is real, when it no longer needs validation to stand tall. So keep showing up for yourself, keep stacking small wins, keep evolving, not for likes, not for recognition, but for the quiet pride of knowing you're becoming who you're meant to be. Focus solely on yourself, and one day, your life will be the proof of everything you never had to announce. Lesson 6. Keep your peace. Non-negotiable, not everything deserves a reaction. Here's a hard truth. Most of us learn the hard way. Not everything needs your reaction. Not every rude comment, not every misunderstanding, not every bit of gossip or drama needs your energy. But when we're not centered in ourselves, we give our peace away far too easily, like it's nothing. Stoicism teaches the exact opposite. Your peace is everything. Guard it like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Read that again. He's reminding us that you don't have to let everything in. You get to decide what shakes you. That power, it's yours. When you truly start focusing solely on yourself, something changes. You begin to see that your emotional energy is a precious currency, and not everything or everyone deserves a piece of it. Just because someone pushes a button doesn't mean you have to react. Just because a storm rolls in doesn't mean you have to step into it. People might call it cold, detached. But the truth is, it's strength. Calmness is a choice. And when you learn to pause instead of react, when you choose silence over the ego's impulse, you grow. Not just in that moment, but in the kind of person you become. This doesn't mean you become passive, it means you become intentional. It means you stop letting the outside world control your inner world. Your peace is yours. Stop handing it over for free. Let others gossip. Let them misunderstand you. Let the noise be noise. You keep your focus, keep your clarity, keep your peace, because that's where your power lives. Focus solely on yourself, and you'll finally be free from the chaos that never really needed you in the first place. Lesson 7. Keep your vision close. Protect the life you're quietly building. There's a quiet kind of power in having a vision for your life that no one else fully sees. A purpose that lives in your chest, not on a vision board or a social feed. The world often tells us to dream out loud, to make big declarations and public roadmaps. But the Stoics, they teach the opposite. They teach you to hold your vision close, like a flame you're shielding from the wind. Seneca once said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve. The process is mutual." What does that have to do with vision? Everything. Because who you surround yourself with, what you give your attention to, shapes the way your vision unfolds. And if your mind is constantly pulled outward, constantly exposed to comparison, judgment, and noise, that inner fire can flicker out. When you truly begin to focus solely on yourself, your vision becomes sacred. You stop needing everyone to understand it. You stop asking for permission. You stop seeking approval. You just build quietly, steadily, intentionally, brick by brick, step by step, not because the world is watching, but because you are. And that's enough. You don't owe anyone a roadmap, and you don't have to explain why you're pulling back, setting boundaries, choosing differently. You just need to keep showing up for that version of you that only you can see, the one becoming stronger, calmer, wiser with each passing day. So guard your vision. Protect it from shallow opinions and empty praise. Let it grow in the soil of silence, watered by discipline and trust. One day, that life you're building in private will speak so loudly you won't need to say a thing. Focus solely on yourself, and your life will become the clearest expression of the quiet power you've been carrying all along. The quiet revolution begins with you. If you've made it this far, then maybe, just maybe, something in these words stirred something deep inside you. A quiet yes, a recognition, a moment of stillness that whispered, This is what I've been needing." Because this wasn't just about Stoicism, or ancient wisdom, or 7 lessons. It was about you, about coming home to yourself, about peeling back all the noise and remembering that your greatest power isn't in fixing the world. It's in mastering your response to it. Focus solely on yourself, and your world begins to change in ways that are almost hard to explain. People notice. You move differently. You react less, but feel more. You stop chasing and start building. And the wild part, most of the world won't even realize what happened. They'll just say things like, "You seem calmer lately. There's something different about you. I don't know what it is, but you feel lighter." That's the transformation. It won't always be flashy, but it will be real. Now, here's something we don't usually say in a big dramatic way, but maybe we should. If this resonated, talk to us. Drop a comment. Tell us which lesson hit hardest. Tell us which one you've already been practicing or struggling with. Or just type stillness, just that. Let us know you're walking this path too. And go ahead and hit that like button. Not because we're chasing numbers, but because it tells the algorithm, hey, this kind of content matters. And we need more of that in the world. And if you want to walk with us a little further, subscribe. Quietly, boldly, however you want. But be part of this space we're building. A space for thinkers, feelers, seekers, for people who don't just want to look strong, but become it. This is your invitation, not to impress the world, but to impress upon yourself that you're done leaking energy into what doesn't serve you. It's your time now. Let's keep going.